I want you to just take a second and imagine something for me. Imagine living in a breathtakingly peaceful town, right? Surrounded by gorgeous mountains. It's incredibly idyllic. But there is a catch. Every single day, you hear this strange humming sound, and it never, ever stops. It's a sound so deeply mysterious that top scientists investigated it for years. They brought in their absolute best equipment, yet nobody could definitively explain where it came from. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're exploring one of America's strangest, most enduring unsolved phenomena, the Taos hum. Seriously, what if a sound never stopped, but nobody else could hear it? Think about how completely isolating that would be. You're sitting right there in your living room, a hum vibrating in your ears, but your family or friends standing right next to you, they hear absolutely nothing, just complete silence. That right there is the core of this mystery. It's not just that a strange sound exists, it's the highly selective nature of who actually perceives it. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. What exactly is the Taos hum? So our story begins in the early 1990s in Taos, New Mexico. It's a picturesque, small desert town famous for its art, its rich culture, and these beautiful, sweeping landscapes. It's exactly the kind of place people go to escape the noise of the big city, just to find some peace and quiet. But suddenly, residents started reporting a persistent, low-frequency humming noise that completely shattered that quiet. And the descriptions were incredibly specific. Some folks said it sounded exactly like a distant truck engine endlessly idling on a nearby highway. Others compared it to heavy machinery running deep underground. It wasn't a high-pitched ring, it was a low, heavy, vibrating drone that you could almost feel in your bones. But here is the absolutely bizarre part. Not everyone in the town could hear it. Actually, far from it. Only a very small percentage of the population ever reported experiencing the sound. Yet for those few people, the impact was absolutely devastating. We aren't just talking about a mild annoyance here. The noise caused severe physical distress. We're talking chronic headaches, massive sleep problems, and debilitating stress that turned their peaceful little town into a complete nightmare. Because of the severe impact it was having, the phenomenon simply couldn't be ignored anymore. Local complaints grew louder, the story actually hit the news, and officially, the noise earned its famous name, the Taos hum. It transformed from just a handful of isolated, kind of confusing complaints into a fully recognized, named phenomenon that really started to attract national attention. Which brings us to Part 2, the scientific investigation. As these stories spread like wildfire, the scientific community naturally became incredibly interested. Scientists, engineers, and specialized hearing experts basically packed their bags and traveled to Taos armed to the teeth with advanced, highly sensitive acoustic equipment. They took a really rigorous, procedural approach to hunt down this noise. They were out there testing the airwaves for any stray acoustic signals, measuring sound frequencies across the entire region, and checking power lines, transformers, even industrial systems to see if mechanical vibrations were somehow traveling through the earth. They scoured the town from top to bottom. Now, while some of these investigations did actually discover some unusual low-frequency sounds in certain specific areas, there was one huge, glaring problem that halted the investigation dead in its tracks. No consistent source could ever be identified. Nothing. The mysterious hum was entirely impossible to track down to a single origin point. And even more confusingly, their highly sensitive equipment often completely failed to capture the exact sound that residents claimed they were hearing in that very moment. So this technological dead end created an even bigger and honestly perhaps more unsettling question. Was the sound real? Was it an actual physical acoustic wave traveling through the environment? Or was something else entirely happening to these people? If the machines couldn't hear it, did it even exist? All right, moving on to Part 3, 4 compelling theories. When science hits a brick wall, human curiosity naturally steps in to fill the blanks. And this brilliantly illustrates the 4 main suspects that emerged over the years to try and explain the impossible hum. First up, industrial noise. Think distant factories, underground machinery, or complex electrical systems creating vibrations that travel long distances through the earth. Second, military experiments. Third, natural causes, like underground geological activity or highly specific atmospheric conditions creating unusual sound waves. And finally, the 4th suspect, human hearing anomalies. Let's look a little closer at Theory 2 for a second. Military experiments. This is your classic conspiracy theory, right? It suggests that secret communication systems or classified military technology operating out in the vast desert could be responsible for the low-frequency drone.
And sure, it's definitely a compelling narrative for a mystery set in the American Southwest. But we have to be absolutely clear here. However popular this idea might be, no evidence has ever been found to confirm it. Zero. It remains purely speculative.
Then, way on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have theory for human hearing. Some scientists actually suggest the hum isn't coming from the outside world at all. They believe certain medical conditions, maybe a heightened hearing sensitivity or specific forms of tinnitus, could cause people to perceive sounds that simply aren't there in the environment. But as you can imagine, locals heavily disagree with this medical diagnosis. They argue that it completely defies logic for so many totally unconnected people to suddenly report the exact same, highly specific low-frequency experience all at the exact same time. And honestly, they have a point.
Which leads us to part 4, an enduring global mystery. Because after all the rigorous investigations, all the testing, and the endless theorizing, the ultimate truth is still completely unknown. Today, decades later, reports of strange humming sounds continue to pop up around the world. Similar mysteries have appeared in other countries, far, far away from New Mexico. Yet Taos remains one of the absolute most famous cases in history. It is a true cold case, a mystery with no confirmed answer, and a sound with no clear source.
So, I want to turn this over to you. Really put yourself in their shoes for a second. If you visited Taos to enjoy the beautiful scenery and suddenly, in the dead quiet of the night, you started hearing a strange vibrating hum, would you believe science and just think it's a trick of your ear? Or would you believe something much more mysterious is at play? What do you think causes the Taos hum? Let me know your theories in the comments below.